Here are the top 8 surprising and interesting facts about Cuba. 1. Christmas was banned for 30 years. Since the revolution, in 1959, Cuba has officially been an atheist country. But in 1969, the government banned Christmas because it was worried about the effect the holiday was having on sugar production. This ban stayed in place until 1997, when Pope John Paul II visited the country. Even though the ban has been lifted now, Christmas is still considered to be a normal working day, so it might not be your best spot for a Christmas getaway. 2. Over 300,000 Cuban soldiers fought in African independence struggles. With Cuba's history of first being a colony, and then a puppet state, it's hardly surprising that they feel strongly about the cause of national independence. What is surprising to many people is Cuba's role in liberating Africa from colonial rule. In fact, Cuba sent over 381,000 soldiers to assist in various independence struggles. They engaged in everything from training the locals in guerrilla warfare to fighting alongside them. To give one example, 40,000 Cuban soldiers fought in Angola and Namibia's war for independence from South Africa, and defeated the white, apartheid army in 2 separate battles, which raised the morale of black South Africans throughout the country and helped to end apartheid. To this day, people from Angola to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and beyond, view Che Guevara, Fidel Castro, and the Cuban people as their valiant allies. 3. Cuba's most popular sport is baseball. The Cubans seem to have been playing baseball since the 1860s. Whether it was popularized by visiting U.S. sailors, or by Cuban exchange students bringing the game back home with them, we'll never know. But baseball was already becoming popular when the Spanish colonial government banned it, in 1869. The government was concerned that Cubans were becoming more interested in baseball than bullfights, which the Spanish forced the locals to attend. However, banning baseball turned it into a symbol of freedom, and teams continued to play illegally. Over the years, baseball has been a great tool for bringing communities together, and has become a centerpiece of Cuban culture and national pride. Despite wages and ticket prices being low, because the country doesn't want to commercialize sport, Cuba has won an astonishing 25 Baseball World Cup trophies. Its performance is sometimes hampered by Major League Baseball poaching its players though. If you travel to Cuba for a week in the sun, you may well get the chance to enjoy playing a game or two in the park, or why not watch a game at the local stadium? It'll only cost you around $3. 4. Abortions are universally free and legal in Cuba. The first abortion laws in Cuba date back to 1936, when Cuba was a U.S. puppet state. Initially, abortion was only legal if the mother's life was in danger, if the fetus was at risk of inheriting a disease, or in the case of a non-consensual pregnancy. Cuban people aren't prudish about abortion though, so the government didn't enforce the law rigorously, and private clinics began to pop up. Mysteriously, around this time, women and girls from countries with more restrictive laws began to holiday in Cuba more often. It's almost as if trying to police people's bodies doesn't work. In 1965, abortion was made legal on 4 conditions: that the woman decides without coercion, that it takes place at a public hospital, that it's carried out by expert staff, and that it's free. Despite a recent upsurge in evangelicals demanding that abortions be banned, they remain free and legal to this day, and accessible to everyone who needs them. 5. Ernest Hemingway lived in Cuba for almost 20 years. Though some people like to criticize his personal life, few dispute his writing prowess, and Ernest Hemingway wrote 2 of his most celebrated works while living in Cuba. If you want to see where he wrote The Old Man and the Sea, and For Whom the Bell Tolls, you can visit his old home, which has been turned into a museum and sits just outside Havana. 6. Cuba's home to the world's largest ballet school. Despite being an island of only 11.5 million people, Cuba's National Ballet School is the largest in the world, with around 3,500 students. Before the revolution, arts and culture were the preserve of the wealthy elite, but the post-revolution government was keen to make them accessible to everyone. This celebration of culture is more than mere lip service. In Cuba, professional ballet dancers earn a wage similar to that of doctors and other skilled professionals, which shows you how respected dancers are. 7. Cuba has developed 5 homegrown COVID vaccines. Unfortunately, due to the US blockade, Cuba doesn't have access to the world's vaccines, and has a hard time getting other medical supplies, like oxygen. But the Cuban government realized right at the start of the pandemic that the country would need to fend for itself, and started development of its own vaccines straight away. Luckily, Cuba's been researching vaccines for decades, and has even created a vaccine for lung cancer that costs only $1 to produce. To date, Cuba has developed 5 vaccines against COVID, 2 of which are over 90% effective when you receive 3 doses. According to a report in the British Medical Journal, Cuba already exports its vaccines to Iran, Nicaragua, Venezuela, and Vietnam, and is in discussion with more than 15 countries, most of which are low-income nations. 8. There's almost no homelessness in Cuba. For someone living in the UK, where there are 5 empty houses for each homeless family, the task of ending homelessness might seem politically impossible. But not so in Cuba. Despite the country's poverty and housing shortage, it's almost unheard of for someone to become homeless. So how have they managed it? There are several factors that, taken together, could explain Cuba's success. Firstly, in Cuba's socialist culture, there's an emphasis on sharing scarce resources. They believe that it's better for everyone to have a little, than for some people to have a lot while others have nothing. Because they apply that philosophy to housing too, it's common for multiple generations of a family to share a home, and for them to take in other relatives who become unhoused. This has led to crowded living conditions for many families, but it's almost unheard of to see someone sleeping on the streets. Aside from culture, the affordability of housing seems to play a large part in keeping homelessness low. 85% of Cuban households own their own home. And when I say they own their own home, I mean that they own it without a mortgage, because mortgages are illegal on a primary residence. But what about the 15% who aren't homeowners? Obviously, they're getting ripped off by their landlords, right? Actually, there aren't any private landlords in Cuba. The 15% of people who live in government tenements and shantytowns pay no rent, because housing is seen as a human right. There you have it, 8 surprising and interesting facts about Cuba. Which one surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to see more videos like this, remember to like and subscribe.